Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from Am I the Jerk? Our first post is by AITA Not Sharing. Am I the jerk for telling my friend's dad my mom returned everything he got me for store credit for herself? So last year my mom married Mark and we moved to a new state. We have a 3-bedroom house. My mom and Mark have one room. Mark's daughter Lily, 10, has her own room. And I, 13F, share with my brothers 16, 18, and 22. Mark doesn't want my mom to work, but he also doesn't give her money for us because that's our dad's job, so I was kinda on my own to get anything I needed. A guy at my school noticed I don't have a lunch most of the time, so he started bringing extra food for me. Then I started going to his house after school. They've been really nice to me. They take me out with them and they got me a pair of shoes because mine were too small. They went all out for me for Christmas. I got 2 pairs of boots and another 2 pairs of shoes, 6 pairs of jeans, 4 leggings, like 20 shirts, 2 jackets, a raincoat, rain boots, umbrella, new backpack and water bottle, and even hair stuff and some makeup. They also got me glasses, but that wasn't really a Christmas present. My mom took everything back for store credit and she used it to get herself stuff. My friend's dad picked me up the day after Christmas to take me to camp. He signed me and my friend up for cooking camp during winter break, and I told him what happened. He called CPS and they came to camp to talk to me a couple days later. Then they came to the house and now I'm staying with my friend and his dad. He reordered everything he got me, plus he had me go into Target and some other stores to get a couple things until everything gets here. But my mom is really mad that I told him, and she's saying I got her in a lot of trouble, so I wanted to know if I was wrong for telling him that she returned everything. Our next post is by Goldleg. Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law if she expects me to get a DNA test for my son, then I want her to get a DNA test for my husband? I, 30F, meet my husband, Stephen, 32, at a friend's party. We instantly connected and started dating not long after. We have been happily married for 5 years now and have a 4-month-old son. I meet my mother-in-law at his uncle's funeral. He asked me to attend it in support of him. Before we left, his cousin warned me about mother-in-law. He said she wasn't the nicest person, and she had impossibly high standards to meet and can be judgmental, so don't take it personally, as she's like that with everyone. I did ask my husband and he agreed that mother-in-law can be quite judgmental, but not to worry, that he will be there for me. I felt like they gave me the sugar-coated version of her because she was terrible. She made a scene about bringing a stranger to a family funeral, but my husband cut her off and said his aunt, who was his uncle's widow, said he could. She spent the rest off the funeral giving me nasty looks and making passive-aggressive comments. She made a scene at our wedding, but that's a different story on its own. But after minimal contact with mother-in-law, my husband eventually got around to telling her that I was pregnant. I expected her to be angry and have a go at him, but she surprised us both and was the complete opposite. She was excited about being a grandmother. She was congratulating us. Her attitude did a complete turn and I grudgingly allowed her to visit. When it was time to give birth to my son, she wanted to see my son being born, but I refused. That's when her ugly side reared its head again and she caused a scene and was thrown out. I refused to let her visit us at home, my husband agreed. But she rang crying and apologizing. She said she was just overwhelmed about being a grandmother and her emotions got the better of her. Against my better judgment, I relented and said okay. When she first held him, she looked at me and said he was beautiful. I went into the kitchen to get us a drink, and then I could hear my husband telling her to get out. I went back in. She started yelling he needed to get the baby tested because he doesn't look like anyone in their family. He kicked her out. She took to social media and told everyone that I cheated on my husband and that my husband needs to get a DNA test to prove he was the dad. She got a lot of attention for that. So I made my own post and said I'll get a test when she gets a test for her son. That just made everything worse. She rang my husband up telling him to take it down. He just hung up on her. Everyone was divided and questioning my husband's paternity since she had such a strong reaction to it. Now even my husband is starting to wonder and making me feel I went too far, and I'm thinking, am I the jerk for saying that? Our next post is by A-Hole Connoiser. Am I the jerk for not letting our nanny leave for a date during our vacation? My wife and I had our first child last year, and it's been quite an intense few months. My wife has been on an extended maternity leave, but on top of that, we've also hired a nanny maid to assist us with the baby as well as keep the house in order. She stays in our guest house. To celebrate our anniversary, I planned for us to take a trip by ourselves just to reconnect and give her some proper time away from our son. She was excited about leaving but was slightly concerned about leaving our son behind. Her mother was going to come down and babysit with the nanny. Trying to ease things, I asked the nanny if she'd be willing to come along with us on our trip and take care of the baby, stressing that this was supposed to be our couple vacation, so most of the childcare will be hers and more than usual. She jumped at the idea, and so I also arranged her ticket and accommodation. To be clear, she was also paid extra for the overtime. The trip was a week long, and our arrangement was going quite well at first. My wife was relaxed, we reconnected, and our son was close by for whenever we missed him. We would take our son and give her a break either in the mornings or afternoons. On our last day, she asked if we could take the night shift as she'd met someone who'd asked her on a date. Besides that, going against our arrangement, the point was to give us a break from the sleepless nights. I'd already paid and planned an intimate date on the beach with my wife for our last night. It became a bit of an issue with her trying to guilt my wife and saying we were being unfair, but by the end of it, we didn't give in and she looked after the kid. Upon returning, my wife heard her on the phone saying that she was thinking of quitting over all of this, and that we were blocking her future, so here we are. Wife thinks we made a mistake. I don't disagree that it might have been asshole-ish, but ultimately it was our arrangement and she was paid extra for it. Are we the jerks? Edit. The post has been up for 12 hours at the time of writing this, and this is the first time checking in since the first hour due to life, but I just wanted to clarify some things I've seen come up. 1. She got paid double her usual daily rate. Since she has consistent hours daily, we just refer to it as daily rate where she works 8 hours, so we paid her for 16 hours of work daily. 2. Our expectations were very clearly expressed to her, and she agreed that it wouldn't be a problem. Depending on our plans, sometimes we took mornings and sometimes we took afternoons, but on any given day it was one of the two. This was also pre-planned since our trip had an itinerary. Each of these breaks averaged about 5 hours, and that excludes the spontaneous breaks whenever we missed him and prepared him for bed. Also, this assumption that my wife and I can't and don't take care of our child is silly. The nanny is there only to assist whenever my wife needs to nap or rest. My wife takes care of most of the childcare, and I step in when I get back from work. Most of the maid's work is housework. My wife is staying in home because of her traumatic birth, which had complications she's still recovering from. She fully plans on returning to work when she's fit and our child is old enough. Our next post is by Numerous Cycle. Am I the jerk for cursing at my niece when she went into my office when I specifically told her it was off limits to guests? My 28M sister 33F is visiting me this week with her daughter, my niece 13F. I was excited to host them in my house, as I haven't really seen my family much ever since I moved away from our home state for my career. For context, I'm a lawyer at a large firm. That means that I have to take work home often, which is why I have a room in my house set up as an office. My office has privileged information about cases and clients. Long story short, when my sister and niece arrived yesterday, and after I helped them get settled in, I told them that there's only one rule that I have for staying in my house. My office is off limits. Fast forward a few hours and everything's fine and dandy. I'm just sitting on the couch with my sister watching a movie, until I get a call from a senior associate at work asking me to do a quick review of a document that he sent me via email. When I get upstairs, I see the door to my office is wide open and the lights are on. When I go in to investigate, my niece is in there sitting in my chair and taking selfies with her feet on my desk. I was beyond furious. I only have one rule for guests at my house, and it's to stay out of my office. I have that rule for a reason. Not only would I be at risk of disbarment, but the integrity of the entire case would be jeopardized if any of that information is leaked. While I'm not accusing her of that specifically, I just don't want uninvolved people in my office taking pictures and posting them on social media, where there may or may not be protected information in view of the camera. I asked her what the hell she was doing, and she said, "I was just curious. I want to be a lawyer like you when I grow up." I told her, "Get the F out and stay out, you little bee." My sister came running up the stairs after my niece started crying, and she told me that I was a monster for talking like that to a kid. I told her that she had no business being in my office, and my sister said that it doesn't matter because she's just a kid. So am I the jerk? Thank Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.